Number 1, surprise, surprise, it's The Lion King. I'll admit, I never got the chance to see this movie in theaters since I was only about 3 at the time, so I had to wait for it to come out on VHS. However, when I finally did see it, it completely blew my mind. I loved every single moment of it, although today I can't really say the same thing, mostly because of some of the songs. In my opinion, this is the strongest film from the Disney Renaissance, and I don't think Disney will ever again be able to make a film this good. Now, most people are familiar with the story of The Lion King, but what I think most people don't know is that, even though it's supposedly original, it draws inspiration from many classical tragedies, including Hamlet. This is probably the big reason that many, including myself, consider this to be the most emotionally resonant film of the lot, boasting several harsh real-life themes and an overall scheme that, when pondered upon, is pretty intense and somber. To my knowledge, there aren't any other Disney films with such internal conflict within a family. The inspirations also make the story much more epic in scope than those of its contemporaries, which fits the premise and themes very well. The Lion King, as with most of the other films, boasts a supporting cast of colorful characters, particularly the duo Timon and Pumbaa, all of which were played perfectly by perfectly cast voice actors, which brings me to a little matter that I think needs to be addressed. The character of Rafiki, who I honestly thought was great, is sometimes bashed for not having enough character interaction or screen time, but I thought that only heightened his mystical quality as a shaman. Besides, has anyone seen The Secret of Nim? In that movie, the Great Owl and Nicodemus could be considered as having similar roles as the wise, somewhat disturbing figures. Yet they are only in the film for a short amount of time, and that doesn't detract from the viewing experience at all, nor lessen their impact. Anyway, on to the main cast. I will admit that in terms of personality, Simba is not the most interesting lead, but his story is probably the most compelling. Combine that with the fact that the film places a great emphasis on how his experiences change him, and you actually have a surprisingly dynamic character. But of course, the most memorable character in the film, and the true protagonist for the first half, is Scar, who I consider one of the greatest Disney villains for several reasons. He's so despicable and snaky, constantly exploiting the proclivities and actions of others to achieve his own ends, and always seems able to manipulate the actions of others even when backed into a corner. He's also the most deceptive of the lot, with the dangerous ability to act like a weakling, and has one of the more sinister songs of a Disney villain. Another thing I like about Scar is that he seems to be a good representation of what Simba would have become had he never abandoned that arrogant attitude he had as a child, which is something I don't think most people catch. Think back to the beginning of the movie, when Simba believes a king can do whatever he wants, and later Scar asserts the same idea by saying, "I'm the king, I can do whatever I want." Makes you wonder, doesn't it? In addition, the hero-villain relationship is one of the best I've ever seen. The way it gradually changes over the course of several revelations is really well executed, and a big reason why I like this film's climax more than any other in the Disney Renaissance. For example, in Beauty and the Beast, the connection between the hero and villain was mostly thematic. But in The Lion King, the hero and villain know each other, and they know why they're fighting each other, which I think makes the climax far more personal. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a perfect film. For one, I will readily admit that it is the weakest in the musical department, as most of the songs are just not as memorable or get in the way of the story. However, in terms of original scores, this film walks all over all the others, especially due to the Hans Zimmer theme, "This Land," which complements every scene it is in perfectly. Oh, and one last topic. One thing that I was surprised to find out was that upon its original release, The Lion King was regarded as not up to par with its predecessors. The interesting thing, though, is that with the time, its reception has gradually become better, as gradually improved significantly. Nowadays, it is considered the strongest Disney Renaissance film, by Empire Magazine and Entertainment Weekly, many reviewers, and even the American Film Institute, which places it as the fourth best American animated film, just behind three of the early classics. Now, I'm not saying that this is the be-all, end-all word on this, only that it's something to consider when evaluating this film. So, there you have it. The five best films from the five films from the Disney Renaissance that I personally consider the best. If you haven't seen any of these films in a long time, I recommend looking them up again because really there's just a timeless quality about them that I don't think will ever be eroded.